All right. So this is beginning of my introduction to League via Nami. So let's talk a little bit about Nami. First of all, her passive is Surging Tides, which means that anytime you hit another champion with one of your spells, they gain uh, 60% or 60 move speed plus 20% of your total AP for 1.5 seconds. This is doubled when they are in the path of her tidal wave. It's really useful, both for getting yourself around the map as well as getting teammates out of danger, or helping your lane partner get back to lane quickly, anything like that. Next up, you have her Q, which is Aqua Present or her Bubble. This is pretty straightforward, deals a little bit of magic damage. It's mostly useful for its crowd control or zoning. Also, you can toss it into bushes where people are hidden, and if they're in there, they'll get revealed when the bubble hits them. When you're in lane against a PvP opponent, represents most of your lane pressure. If this is down, your opponents will feel free to engage on you. Next up, we have Ebb and Flow, which is her main poke spell, which is the little bouncing water. Uh, the uh, the little stream of water can bounce 2 times, so we'll look at what that means and how you can use that in game. Next up, you have her E, which is Tidecaller's Blessing. She can target herself or another champion, and it empowers their next 3 basic auto attacks, adding magic damage to them as well as slowing the target hit for up to a second. There's some tricks that we'll look at on how to use that as well. Finally, you have her ultimate, which is Tidal Wave. A big wave of water goes rushing almost the width of most of the lanes, knocks people up. Is really a good disengage tool, a little less effective as an engage tool. You can also throw it over the top of a team fight to kind of disrupt the other team and make CC for your team easier to hit. Now we'll go ahead and take a look at setting up her runes right now. Best runes on her are Airy, which is a free hit on the enemy and a little shield to your teammates. Mana Flow Band, which lets you poke and be active in lane. We'll talk a little bit about how to manage that a little bit later on. Transcendence, this is cooldown, which is very important on Nami because she is a caster, so she wants to be using her spells whenever possible. If you go over the 40% cooldown reduction, any extra cooldown is converted into AP on Nami, up to uh, so each percent over 40 is converted to 2 ability power. And then finally, you have Scorch, which deals bonus damage every time your ability hits someone. For PvP, most people these days are running Biscuit Delivery for sustain in lane. Basically, that lets you heal up and get more mana back instead of having to return to the base. Longer you can stay in lane, the better. And then finally, we have Transcendence, which gives +5 cooldown reduction, +5 max cooldown reduction, +5 summoner spell cooldowns, and +5 item cooldowns. It's a very good rune on supports because they do get lots of items. For the uh, for the stat selection, most people are running pure offense with a little bit of health. Health is always good on caster supports because they are some of the squishiest champs in the game. Looking at spell max order, most people are going WEQ since that provides you the most utility, and then maxing W first, E second, and Q last, with putting a point in alt whenever it's available. Looking at items, 2 pots or potions. Spell Thief's Edge is your common start. You want to rush. Boots of Mobility, there's 2 reasons for that. One, it makes it a lot easier to get in a position to land your CC and your poke, and also it lets you move around the map a lot faster, which is very important as a support. From there, most people will rush Ardent Censer, and that is a very support heavy item. We'll talk a little bit about what it does. Shield and heal effects on other units grant both of you attack speed, and their attacks deal additional on hit magic damage. This is very useful for your AD carry. Gives you 60 ability power, 10% cooldown reduction, which at level 10 will have you at 20% CDR or 25% CDR with your runes. Also increases your mana regen, which is also very important. Has 3 unique passives, plus 10% heal and shield power, makes your heals stronger, which you definitely like, and that will also buff your airy shield. You get 8% movement speed, which on top of your Moby Boots means you are cruising around the map. Whenever you heal or shield an ally, you and your ally gain 10 to 30% attack speed, and your attacks deal an additional 5 to 20 on hit magic damage for 6 seconds. Bonus effects are based on the target's level. So if your ADC is level 10 and you're level 8, which does happen sometimes, they will get a higher attack speed and on hit bonus than you will. Couple things. Anytime you see unique passive, it means that you can only get that once. So if you were to build 2 items that have the same unique passive, you're only getting it once. So that's something to keep track of as you're looking at items. Next up, we have Redemption, Orbital Death Laser of Healing. You've used this before. You're familiar with how that works. You get another 10%. So this is an example of overlap. You'll notice that you have plus 10% heal and shield power on both of these. You're going to miss that off of Redemption. So in other words, that one doesn't stack. You know about the active, can be used while dead. Half effect if the target has been affected by another redemption. So stacking redemptions is less effective. More mana regen, another 10% cooldown, which gets us to 35. All right, next up we have Remnant of the Watchers. This gets us to 45% CDR after level 10. And gets us an additional 10 AP, more health, uh, more mana regen, more gold per second. We'll go over how to juggle this item in game. After that, if you're still playing, you get into some of the more support specific items. If you're winning hard, you can go with the Locket of the Iron Solari, which is a defensive item, lets you last longer, and also lets you shield people around you for 2.5 seconds. You can also go with Mikhail's Crucible, which you can use to remove crowd control effects, and takes a lot of practice to use. Another 10% cooldown reduction on this will get you more AP. Another item is Athene's Unholy Grail. It's kind of a combo offense-defense item. It's a hybrid item. More cooldown reduction, more mana regen. The passive's a little involved, so let's take a look at this. Gain 35% of the pre-mitigation damage dealt to champions as blood charges up to 100 to 250 max. Healing or shielding another ally consumes charges equal to 100% of the heal or shield value, healing the ally for that amount. So that basically allows you to store up healing charges and use them for huge bursts of healing in the game. Passive Dissonance grants 5 ability power per 25% base mana regen you have. It disables Harmony on your other items. Now, truth be told, none of us ever worry about that moment to moment as the game goes by. It's basically turbo healing with a little bit more ability power on the back end. All right, so let's go ahead and step into game real quick. I'm going to go ahead and get my runes set up here. I want biscuits. That looks good. Now, I'm going to go into the practice tool first and show you a couple things on the practice tool. Usually you're going to take Flash Ignite on Nami.
I decide what the tide will bring.
And I will go with the base skin. Now here, basically, we're going to be looking at how some of the spells interact and some things you want to look for. So let's go ahead and give ourselves free mana.
Swim against the current.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift.
All right, I'm just going to go to the river here.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
And this, I should probably change. All right. So I've got Nami loaded up here. I've got some skills, a couple items. Items aren't all that important. All right, one thing I want you to take a look at is her move speed. Her base move speed at the moment is 335. If I cast E on myself, which is Control E, Alt E, there we go, Alt E, you see it goes up to 401 for a second. Same thing happens if I drop Bubble on myself or if I cast Ebb and Flow on myself. So anytime an ally gets hit with her spell, she gets that move speed boost. So as you remember, Q is 401. Now I'll show you what happens with the R. 456. So I flashed into that so that you'd see what the difference was. So that's how her passive works. Now we'll set up some dummies. Enemy target dummy, 2 enemy target dummies. Okay, so Bubble floats the enemy, as you know. E slows it, and you get a damage buff. Now, when you're using your W, obviously hitting it once while you're in range will bounce it back to you. So a trick that you want to do is to try to position yourself so that it'll bounce between yourself and another enemy. Now there's other tricks that you can do where you can cast it on yourself first if you need the healing, and then it will bounce straight to them. So let me reset my cooldowns. Where auto refresh cooldowns? Okay, so standing back here, I cast W. and it just heals me. If I stand over here, cast it on myself, it'll automatically bounce to another enemy. Now I'm going to put a friendly target dummy here. So if I cast W on my buddy who needs health, as you can see, it'll bounce between the two of us. Now, optimal use of this spell will get 2 bounces. So, in other words, let's see if I can do this here, all right? So at range, I can get it to bounce to him or myself, but if I'm really far back, this is not cooperating. So basically, there's kind of a threshold where you can cast and get out, and it'll bounce to your friends instead of to you, and you'll get all the bounces. The other option here is to put yourself in the middle and get multiple bounces. So that is most of the the little nuances of some of her skills. The other things I'll show you once we're in game, and I will go ahead and get a game loaded up, and I'm going to try to play Stream of Consciousness style, and we'll see how that goes.